Are we ready?
Yes, we are ready
Yes, ma'am.
for a Save the Dogs update.
Okay. So, firstly, I'm basically going to be reading information from this article posted by an independent investigative journalist named Shane Walters. He did a lot of research, and so this is not like my information, it's his. And then also I'll probably just like link that on Twitch when I get done. But there's just like some really surprising, or I guess kind of not surprising, but unfortunate information that this guy kind of dug into, and I thought it was important for anybody who cares about the Save the Dogs thing to know this. So, firstly, I want to like reiterate, with all the information that's like going around about this stuff, the thing that's most important, at least to the group that the protest on Saturday, April 18th, those activists were a part of a group, well, actually kind of like two groups. They were part of Direct Action Everywhere, or DXE, and I think I'll have to look it up. It's the other one that the Wayne runs.
Okay, well let's not
No, I know. I'm just
disseminate
saying.
the inner workings of this complex resistance network.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it's important that we remind everybody that this is all supposed to be non-violent, and that like keeps getting reiterated and everything that everybody's talking about. So all the other news that you see online of like the sheriff and people like saying that we were trying to destroy property or like hurt the people at Ridgeland is just not true. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to put that out there before
And
I continue.
also, I want to put out, if you look up the Ridgeland Farms website, they put out a statement about the protest, and from what they describe, can you put your mic down or something? From what they describe, no, uh,
I oh
it's fine. You could just like put it on the couch and then it would, yeah, but whatever. Sorry. I'm just saying, I just wanted to say, check the fucking website. If you see their statement, they describe what is essentially this mass terror fucking incident in which if this occurred in the way they fucking describe it on the website, the National Guard would have been fucking deployed. I mean, it's insane. They act like there was somebody driving a truck through all 25 of their employees personally and garroting dogs. You know, it's just like it's insane. It's a crazy statement that they put out. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let
no,
you go back
that's
to
a
that,
good
and I
point.
just wanted to put that in.
Yeah, so this guy, this journalist, he wrote a very informative article, and so I just kind of wanted to try to touch on some of the points that I thought were important. So let's see. Ridgeland Farms pulls in $2.5 million a year. It has over 300 documented state violations. A judge found probable cause for criminal animal cruelty, and its veterinarian lost his license for performing surgeries on conscious, unanesthetized dogs for nearly 20 years. The federal government has known about this all for over a decade and have done like nothing about it, which is not an accident. And so this guy kind of wrote like a paper trail. I'm almost directly quoting the article, so I will like link it. So let's see. Former employees at Ridgeland testified under oath. Dogs were cut open for cherry eye surgeries by workers with no veterinary training, and the dogs did not have anesthesia or pain relief. The dogs were also given paralytics so they could not move, and then they had their vocal cords removed without anesthesia, so the building would be quieter. And the Wisconsin State Inspector put all of this in writing in his official report. He said that while he was in there, the ammonia was so bad he felt sick during the visit, and his throat and nostrils were still burning hours after he left. And so this is when Ridgeland Farm starts racking up these 300 violations. So the facility veterinarian, Richard Van Domelen, had his license pulled after the state board found he had spent nearly 20 years overseeing illegal surgeries on unanesthetized animals. but he kept his job as the facility manager after he lost his license. The special prosecutor, Tim Grunke, he's a La Crosse County District Attorney appointed to lead the criminal investigation, confirmed the veterinarian situation on camera to 12 News. Let's see. He said that Ridgeland had been doing these cherry eye procedures, which I don't know if you guys really know what this is. It's real fucked up. Basically, they hold the dog's eyes open and like cut glands out or cut eyelids off. It's disgusting.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
So this guy who was investigating the DA, identified 5 separate areas for potential criminal charges before Ridgeland agreed to surrender its breeding license to avoid the prosecution. State inspector documented all of this, and former employees swore to it. And then it was also filmed back in 2017 when activists were inside the building. A judge said it met the bar for criminal prosecution, but the federal government looked at the facility 28 times and found almost nothing wrong. And everyone's like, okay, how? So it turned out it was not just, well, okay, so he kind of like teases all this stuff. So like first he goes over how it wasn't just one judge. The list of official bodies that found Ridgeland in violation of the law or found probable cause for criminal conduct has never been assembled in one place until now. Dane County Judge Rhonda Lanford ruled in 2025 that, or in a 23-page decision, that there was probable cause Ridgeland had violated Wisconsin animal cruelty laws and that the Dane County District Attorney had refused to act despite overwhelming evidence. The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection documented 311 violations and proposed a $55,148 fine that Ridgeland refused to pay. The Wisconsin Veterinary Examining Board suspended Van Domlen's license, and an administrative law judge upheld that suspension. And then this special prosecutor independently reviewed the evidence and identified these 5 separate areas that I was talking about. The DEA accompanied the investigators on an unannounced inspection in February of 2026, so like 2 months ago. 2 former Ridgeland employees testified under oath in October of 2024, hearing about what they witnessed inside. Multiple USDA Inspector General audits found that federal animal welfare enforcement was described in official government reports as basically meaningless and effective, and that 80% of audited dog breeders had not fully corrected previous violations. So all of these bodies had found problems, and the settlement deal that Ridgeland negotiated for those 311 citations was dropped, and that wiped the slate clean. So they dropped the fine, no criminal charges were filed, and the dogs are still there. So some like behind the scenes stuff about all these the connections that makes all this possible. Ridgeland Farms is owned by 3 veterinarians: David Williams, Jeffrey Balmer, and Jim Burns. And Jim Burns, the last, he let his vet license lapse. And then there's an estate of a 4th owner, Ralph McGrew, who has stake in Ridgeland Farms as well. Records show that all 4 had ties not just at Ridgeland, but also at Mount Horeb Animal Hospital. When Van Domlen's license was pulled, Ridgeland told the press that 2 of its 3 vet owners were still licensed and would step in, but nobody reported that the same complaint filed by Dane for Dogs set off investigations into not only Van Domlen, but also those other 2 vets, Williams and Balmer. So Williams had also been through this before back in 2015. So this is in 2025, 10 years ago. The Wisconsin Veterinary Examining Board disciplined him after a patient died. The board found that he failed to keep proper medical records, and the board's language was almost word for word what they used to pull Van Domlen's license a decade later. Ridgeland swapped. So then, basically, what this means is that Ridgeland swapped out a vet who lost his license for two vets who were already being investigated for the same thing that Van Domlen was. Additionally, the Ridgeland vet whose license was suspended is also chair of the Town of Blue Mounds board.
Isn't that interesting? How these
So
things.
then
What we
they
have
have
here is what we call in the business a micro Illuminati. Okay, so this is a group of people that run a small town or a community of any degree. This can even be in an inner city, and they have a level of control that is, they're not as clean as the real Illuminati. I'll say that. These people can be taken down, and we can stop them pretty easily. You know, so, but that's what we're dealing with. Go on, Em.
Yeah, so
Hell yeah,
vet
Randy Randerson.
license pulled. He's chair of the Town of Blue Mounds board. So he runs the local government of the town where his facility operates. According to the same report, Jerry Blizzard, the son-in-law of Jim Burns, who is another Ridgeland owner, serves as the town constable. So local law enforcement in Blue Mounds is the owner's family member. Additionally, an employee named Jarabek at the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, so an agency responsible for regulating these breeding facilities like Ridgeland, was defending Ridgeland while referring to herself as a proud daughter of a vet. And guess what? She's the daughter of Jim Burns. So the guy, or one of the vets who owns Ridgeland. And she's on the regulatory board. She was working inside the regulatory agency, and she's supposed to be holding her father's facility accountable, but she never revealed that relationship. So she can basically just let him get away with whatever, you know what I mean?
I think so.
Additionally, Federal Inspector Welch, covering the same facility for a decade, found almost nothing. The facility vet chairing the local government. Oh, okay. So this federal inspector found nothing with all these connections, but the writer of this article is saying that this was not a system that was failed; it was built. So all these people, are in the perfect positions to let Ridgeland get away with all of these, with all these violations, being local government, regulatory agency, and law enforcement. So some of the things that Ridgeland has done in March of 2025, Milwaukee's Fox 6 got records showing Ridgeland shipped 40 puppies to an out-of-state buyer when they were 5 weeks old. Wisconsin law says no dog can be transferred before 7 weeks. Ridgeland said it had special permission from the state, but wasn't able to prove this with any documentation. The story got a headline, but then disappeared. Additionally, public records suggest that Ridgeland Farms has not filed some tax forms. Form 5500-SF, an employee benefit plan return since tax year 2023. Let's see. A facility receives millions in federal research contracts, and they received $441,000 in forgiven pandemic loans. So if this is all confirmed, this would raise serious questions about federal compliance obligations. And by the way, that forgiven pandemic loans was paid by the taxpayers
Do you
in
think,
Wisconsin.
could I ask some questions? Do you think you could tell us about the fact that basically Ridgeland Farms, what is their like level of power? What is their relative like why are they able to do this? What gives them so much money, you know? And then like could you talk about the fact that this is happening across the border as well, the border of Canada. Which also,
Yeah.
Duncan, if you do not feel bad if you have to go to bed, dude. You gotta wake up early. It's understandable. Nobody's okay. Yeah, man. Thanks for the being here, Dunk. What a guy. Sorry, I'm not to interrupt, but yeah, those two things I just like how so how are they able to? Why are they so powerful? How are they making so much money? Um, and the Canadian situation.
Yeah, okay. So I feel like most of the reason they're able to get away with this stuff is because like part of the positions that they hold, like being that they have family members in the like for one, if one vet gets their license pulled, they just replace them with other vets in the area.
And they could do
And
that
these are the same
because
these are
they're the biggest supplier of beagles.
yeah, they're like one of the biggest suppliers in the US of these research beagles. They're a big puppy mill. Um and like the people who used to own Ridgeland Farms live around Ridgeland Farms still. And these people who I'm talking about, like Burns, there's this guy, Jones, like these people were the ones who were like stalking protesters and saying like they enjoy abusing animals. Really just interesting stuff. Um, in addition, this guy Welch, which I'm not sure that this article really clarifies like how he's related, if he's related at all. However, like he has like since 2014, there's been 28 inspection records for Ridgeland, and 25 of them show zero violations, with one inspector, this guy Welch, running 24 of those visits by himself. So 24 visits, one violation found is a 4% rate. And when he brings other staff, other USDA staff, violations were found about 50% of the time. And when he brings animal care specialists, violations were found 100% of the time. So, like, they just have people who are basically like lying for them. Additionally, let's see. This is probably definitely another reason why they're able to get away with this. In 2018, the USDA floated a plan to reduce how thoroughly it inspects facilities accredited by the AAALAC. The public basically said, no, we don't want that. We want full inspections. And the USDA went in public and said, okay, we'll just drop the idea. But then a year later, they enacted it anyways. So now basically the regulatory bodies, the inspectors, only have to check one thing per visit at these accredited facilities. They can check the animals, the building, or the paperwork. They do not have to check all three. So inspectors can go years without even seeing a single animal, and they were ordered to say nothing about it.
Wow.
Harvard Law School is the one who dug this up through a Freedom of Information Act.
Interesting.
Um,
So Harvard, somebody at Harvard is interested in this situation.
yeah, yeah,
Looked it up because this
yeah,
is a thing that spans the nation, spans two nations. That's the other thing we have to
yeah.
point
They
out too.
sell to multiple universities. The Ridgeland Farms does, um, all over the U.S. and in Toronto, Canada as well, where there will be a protest happening. I believe it might have been today. I honestly I don't remember the date because I'm not able to make it, but um they have Ridgeland dogs at a facility in Toronto where they're also testing. Um so all of these, like, these inspections that are basically not real inspections, and Ridgeland's family being part of the regulatory bodies and law enforcement, All of this means that Ridgeland can kind of do whatever they want, and our tax dollars are paying for it because the government
Seems
is
to be
writing them
protecting them.
checks. Yeah.
Not just writing them checks, it's saving them money in so many different ways. Like the fact that they're even in business right now is frankly a crime. Like because of the way that they're doing business, it's come to the point that what these guys are doing, they're not just breeding dogs and selling them. They're essentially they're using this excess amount of money and I guess just the dogs that are lying around, but they're just torture killing dogs for no reason. Again, like we talked about this on the first one, but it's good to reiterate, like there is no point in doing animal testing at this point. Scientifically, we're kind of beyond it in many ways, but even if we aren't, like the researchers that are going to be required to do significant animal testing and the ethics committees that you're going to have to submit to, none of that stuff is happening. This is just a bunch of guys. I doubt they actually have a real doctor, a researcher on staff. I mean, sure, maybe they might have a veterinarian because they need to, but they they don't have a researcher on staff. So when they say these things like we're testing and they're pumping dogs full of, I mean, I'm trying not to be too graphic here, but you can go to savethedogs.io and I think you can get access to some of the videos. The things that they're doing to these dogs too, just the way they're handling them. I mean, you know a
I
dog.
could I could be graphic if you think the
Yeah,
viewers.
I think you should be graphic. We got 5 viewers and we can go into it. You might have to also repeat some of the rundown you gave. But yeah,
So
I just want to plug savethedogs.io again. Look into that, guys. If you got the extra time, because you know what, we got to start somewhere. If we can't stop the pedophiles and the government from raping children, maybe we can stop these fucking hicks from torture killing dogs. Anyway, I'm gonna leave the floor to you again, Em.
agreed. Um, so it's important to know. So like the government is writing checks to Ridgeland. The NIH wrote 3 grants at the University of Missouri, where Ridgeland dogs are sold to, of $12 million. And guess what the University of Missouri did? They glued hundreds of live ticks directly to Ridgeland dogs' bare skin for $12 million. Live ticks just glued to these poor babies. Secondly, the NIH wrote a separate grant of $597,893 for 38 5-month-old beagles strapped into gas masks twice daily for 2 weeks. And the facility announced, they might die from this. And at the end of the experiment, they killed all the puppies.
Jesus.
SBA COVID pandemic loans, that 441,000 I talked about, was fully forgiven, and taxpayers paid every dollar,
Hey,
with
Em,
zero repayment required.
I like this. This is good. I'm remembering that story that you told me um about that video. I know this might be hard to recount that you saw. Maybe you could, if you feel all right, describe it again. I mean, it is truly sickening. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
So yeah, he's talking about. I saw this really awful video, and I'm not gonna lie, like, because I already know about this and how horrible it is, I haven't been watching very many videos because it's awful.
You
But
don't
I
have to
did
feel shame
see
about that,
one.
Em. That's fine.
I saw one video. This is happening at Ridgeland. It was like an undercover camera, probably from one of the staff who's horrified by what's going on. But basically, it showed a person, probably an untrained professional, because they usually have untrained vet techs doing these procedures, um, who had an injection of basically like a toxin, and they shot, like used a needle, an injection needle, and shot this toxin into a beagle puppy's like back leg, and then they put the beagle puppy with no treatment or anything back into its cage, and the puppy was like wailing and cowered in a corner and wasn't able to use its back legs and just like crying. It was awful. It
Kind
was
of
so
limping
horrible.
around, dragging its leg. It's yeah,
Yeah.
wailing in pain. It's there's
And
no
they
need to
just
do
lynched
that.
it.
There's no need to do that. They didn't gain anything from that, so they just basically, if you can imagine somebody sick enough to do that, um, that's what we're dealing with here, people.
Exactly. And there's like no need for removing the vocal cords either. They did it. The one of the staff members who spoke out said that um when they asked, like why are we removing vocal cords, the staff the other staff member was like, well, because the dogs are annoying. Like they don't want to listen to them bark all day, so they just take out their vocal cords. It's sickening. And they're doing these procedures while the dogs are awake and paralyzed, but without pain meds. And I don't know if any of you guys are in the healthcare field, but that's literally illegal. Like you are not allowed to give someone a paralytic without pain medication or without putting them to sleep. Because imagine it's essentially like a date rape drug. Like imagine having full awareness and feeling every bit of everything that's happening without being able to move. And that's what's happening to these dogs. Surgery on them. Um, yeah. So there's also been undisclosed amounts of grants for multiple experiments at universities across the country. Um, and oh, by the way, I don't know if it was said. Oh no, I did say that. So never mind. Let's see.
You can repeat some things you've said too, because in a second here, I'm trying to make a little Reddit post. And again, I want to read it. Duncan, dude, thanks for joining us. Do not feel obligated to stay past if you need to fall asleep. He's probably already
Yeah.
asleep, and I respect him for it. Um, and shout out to Randy Randerson, the true goat. Um, but yeah, go on him. You can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, like, the NIH is paying like thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions for these things to happen. Um, and we pay taxes, by the way, like that's how it's covered. So then, so the NIH is RFK Jr. Representative Mark Pocan of Wisconsin stood up at the House hearing on April 16th, 2026, and told RFK Jr. to his face that NIH was still writing checks to labs using the Ridgeland Beagles, despite everything that had been documented. And RFK Jr. said he could barely believe it, but the money is in the congressional record. And yeah, uh, like we were saying earlier, 90 like the testing at this point is just we don't need to do it anymore. It's not helping. It's not scientific at this point. There's research that says 90% of the drugs that work in animal tests, and not just beagles, all animals, but once they reach human trials, 90% of them fail. And there's already technology to replace um, using animal testing. We have organ on chip systems built at Harvard's Weiss Institute that can replicate how human tissue actually behaves. There's human cell organoids, computer models, and all these things exist, but we're still putting drugs into a beagle, which produces inaccurate results. And these beagles, because of this, because of these like pseudoscience procedures, have to live in 2 foot by 4 foot wire cages with sores on their feet, one water bottle, no enrichment, have to live in these cages, walk around in their own waste, and they never get to leave the cage unless they're being experimented on or bred. So these dogs never felt grass, never seen the sun, and being experimented on unnecessarily. Um, the FDA removed the legal requirement for animal testing in drug development, but we're still doing it. Um, let's see. It's like an old practice that people are not moving on from, and we need to. Basically, at this point, it just has to be banned because things aren't going to change unless change is forced. And that's like, like that's what the protesters were actually trying to do. We weren't. We
Um,
were just trying to create change. You know, it's
yeah, the
like
protesters are trying to call attention to the problem so that
yeah,
um some legitimate legislation changes can be made.
exactly,
But in the meantime, there are just dogs being tortured to death. So
exactly.
you have to disrupt. You can kind of two birds with one stone if you can disrupt their operations. If you can bring cameras into the facility that they don't have control of, um, yeah, you can basically um, yeah, you can get that information out, and you can do what we're trying to do right now is disseminate that information. You can let people know what's going on, and then hopefully, when the time comes that you have a choice, people say voting or whatever and all that stuff. Do whatever the fuck you want, but hey, man, here at Duck Shirts. Now, again, I'm not affiliated with this group, and I don't care what their rules are. I advocate for this, dude. I think if there's a fucking hero out there, I'm not advocate. This is what I'd say. If there's a hero out there, dude, just put a nice. After everybody goes home, make sure the security guard calls out sick. Just, fucking open all the doors up, let them all out, free the fucking dogs like a stampede of beagles
Okay.
attacking Blue Mounds, Wisconsin,
No,
cause
we
fucking
okay.
havoc and chaos, and then once all the dogs are gone, everyone's uh blow that shit up. Just turn it into fucking rubble. Turn it into fucking rubble. And when they come back and they're like, "Oh my God, no, my desk had a bunch of tchotchkes and it had my daughter's photo on there." It'll be like, "Well, you know what, dude? You just shouldn't have fucking tasered those dogs and stabbed them with all those needles and um, just spun them around your head like they were fucking rag dolls. You like, what the hell did you, shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're at this point. We got Donald Trump treating this. I mean, hell, man, what are we doing here?
Now listen, I kind of not that I don't necessarily agree
America
with you.
Jr.'s eating dogs.
We
He's harvesting
do
raccoon
have
penises. We're gonna run out of raccoon penises. There's only one per male raccoon. That's only half the raccoons that exist. Can we just have somebody going around harvesting penises? I don't know. What is the storage like? What's our backlog? What's our reserve of raccoon penis? Sorry, my bad. What were you saying again?
we do have homes for all the beagles. So you don't need to just let them go. We have homes for them.
That's interesting. Okay, so you have options, is what they're saying, but you've
Richland
heard what
knows
the duck
this.
shirt suggestion is, so now you've got these other guys, whatever they're doing. So go ahead and.
Um, Also, I feel like it's necessary to mention, people might not know about Ridgeland. Most people I feel like don't. I mean, I didn't, and I live 30 minutes away from it. Um, but a lot of people do know about Envigo, which is a another puppy mill, Beagle puppy mill in Cumberland, Virginia. It got shut down in 2022, made headlines. Um, they had a lot of violations as well, and the judge found probable cause, vet licenses suspended. The federal response was that the DOJ seized all 4,000 dogs immediately and gave them a $35 million fine, a criminal conviction, and rehomed all the dogs. In Ridgeland Farms, similar things, documented violations, 311 plus state violations, judge finding probable cause, vet license suspended, just like in Vigo. But the federal response is where it differs because instead of seizing the dogs, the federal response was to give them a handshake deal, no fines, no charges, dogs in cages, 8 more months of sales. So to be clear, everybody's like, oh, okay, well, they have to shut down on July 1st. That's not true. They have to give up their sales license on July 1st, but they are still allowed to keep the dogs and do whatever they want to them. They're still allowed to breed more dogs so that more dogs have to live and die inside this facility while Ridgeland Farms does whatever research on them they want. They just can't sell the dogs to like universities and places in Toronto, Canada that we talked about earlier after July 1st. So it's interesting though that what happened in Vigo isn't happening in Ridgeland and that no one in the federal government has explained that. And now, in fact, after the protest on Saturday, April 18th, the protesters who were arrested started being treated like terrorists. In
Some people were
fact,
reporting getting tickets just for parking on the street that they park on all the time. Just all of a sudden, they're getting tickets every day for no reason.
yeah, so the police, like people who drove their cars to Ridgeland, the police were writing down license plates, and now randomly these people are getting like parking tickets and things happening to them that probably wouldn't have happened before. It's pretty interesting, you know? And a lot of the people who were put in jail for this protest last Saturday, um, they were asked by federal counterterrorism task force, like, if they would save a grub. They just kept asking the protesters, "Would
They
you
would
save a
save a
grub?
grub.
Will you save? Would you save a grub?" Like that's what they kept asking the people who were the protesters who were arrested. Would you save a grub? And it's like, why is that
So we're
relevant?
calling dogs grubs. So what they're
Yeah.
doing, they're saying like, man has dominion. Um, so we shouldn't have sympathy for lesser creatures. And that comes from, I don't know where that ideology stems from. I think it comes from a disconnection of any ideology that makes any sense because I know the Bible um, at least advocates for a minimum like ethics towards animals. It actually and towards your like yeah. So I don't know where that comes from. It comes from a twisted perversion of probably Christianity. Um, and that's not at all accurate, I think, to Jesus' teaching. I'll say that much. Not to get off topic here, but anyway, um,
It's like
that's
sort
what
of
they're
on
doing.
topic.
That's what they're doing. They are trying to be like, no, we're humans, so I don't care about um, the effect. You know, I don't care about harming another creature. And I think if you're doing that, you're a person who's so deeply disconnected um, from like just your experience. Like you think that what you're experiencing, if you're in this place, you think that the things that you're experiencing are intentional and meaningful, but actually what's going on is you are blotting out, you're probably an addict of something. You probably have a very strong vice, and you're probably blotting out the um, thoughts that make you question, like, hey, is what I'm doing a right thing? Um, yeah. So that's what these people are doing. They're turning off their humanity. And so when somebody turns off their humanity, at duck shirts we say you don't treat them like a human. You treat him like a goose, and you get that goose by his fucking neck, and you fucking ring it in the duck shirts. And yeah. Anyway, and what were you saying?
No, you're good. I don't know. There's like, I feel like there is so much to tell. I think another thing worth mentioning for people who don't know much about the protest, because I do believe I talked more about what was happening at Ridgeland before than what happened at the protest, other than the fact that the protesters who went to get the dogs out were met with tear gas, rubber bullets, and pepper spray. A lot of police brutality. One of the things that I think I didn't mention was between the March 15th date when the activists actually got inside Ridgeland and carried out 22 Beagles, between that time and the protest in last Saturday in April, the owner of Ridgeland dug a trench around the entire property and filled this trench with manure, water, rocks, and whatever else he wanted to put in it,
A
and then
medieval
surrounded
cesspool
said,
moat.
yes, cesspool, and then surrounded said trench with those massive round hay bales. I don't know if you guys know what these are, but they're large, very large, probably as tall as a man. No, because people were climbing up on them, so they're a little bit smaller, but they're very big hay bales. They were trying to make it as impossible as they could to get into the facility, but they did it by building a shit trench. And so after the protest happened, and then the feds and police stations started treating these protesters like terrorists. By the way, some of them got arrested for for walking towards Ridgeland with legal papers for a lawsuit. They were arrested before they could even hand the papers over on probable cause for conspiracy to commit burglary. Isn't that a nice little charge? Anyways, so after all these people were treated like terrorists for trying to do an open rescue and get these dogs out, all that Ridgeland was charged with was improper, like not having a permit to build this trench. Um, yeah, let's see. I wanted to see if the article does mention exactly what it was. Let's see. Um, an ordinance violation for building a trench without permits and like improper use of manure or something like that. Really silly. That's all they were charged with. It's also worth it to mention, although I'm embarrassed about this being from Wisconsin, Wisconsin's animal cruelty statute, chapter 951, specifically exempts facilities conducting research under approved institutional protocols. So Ridgeland is operating under these approvals where the law is written to basically protect them. The research exemption is one of the primary reasons that criminal accountability has been like impossible to achieve.
So, pretend you're like a nerd not affiliated with Dark Shirt Games that wants to like solve this problem non-violently and all that stuff, and you don't want to inhibit people's ability to research or whatever in the way they need to. How do we solve this problem at the legislation level? What should people be looking out for? Do we have any information about that yet, or do we need to get talking in this group chat? Figure it out.
Basically, yeah, I think that unfortunately we're kind of in a time in our society where really our representatives are not listening or
You're
making
kidding.
decisions. Yeah,
What?
okay. Well, we don't
What?
we don't we all know this, but basically representatives obviously are not listening to the public and are like directly going against what the public wants.
Wait,
However,
but it says in the
if
Constitution we should kill them then.
yeah. Yeah, that's another debate, babe. That's another time.
No,
That's
that's not a
another
debate. That's what it says in the Constitution.
I know, but that's another topic for another. Like, I think
That's
it's
not a topic.
important.
That's just a fact. It says in the Constitution that we should kill them for that
You're right.
with guns specifically.
Um, but what I was gonna say is to be able to help this. So all of this horrible news, all of these horrible things happening, Ridgeland is a corrupt facility in a corrupt system in Wisconsin.
And so if
What
we
we
take
can
out
do.
this little, let's imagine this. Imagine there's on so this pedophile mountain that we've uncovered with the Epstein files here, guys. What we're looking at is a pedophile mountain, and actually a pyramid that's caked with the blood of children and the cum of pedophiles. And so it looks like a mountain, but it's actually a pyramid. And the bottom rung of this pyramid, the blocks at the very bottom, are these infrastructure items that are built on like or have become dependent upon suffering, unnecessary human suffering, or animal suffering. Um, these are sort of like the harboring grounds for people with fucking really bad problems, and they can hide these problems in these environments seamlessly. And you see, you move up the ladder, the rungs of this pyramid, and you get up to Epstein's Island. And Epstein's Island isn't even the top of the pyramid. Sorry, guys. Sorry to announce to the world, but that's yeah, we've got bigger problems than that even if you could